I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. And this little 6-year-old had a 3-year-old sister. And in my house, there was only one rule for Saturday mornings. On a Saturday morning, if I woke up, I was not allowed to put on the TV to watch cartoons until my parents got up, because they didn't want me to wake up my little sister. Well, one Saturday morning, this 6-year-old woke up. And I'm afraid he did what he was not supposed to do. I got up and very quietly crept into the living room, and I put on the TV. And what I saw before me, I'm guessing, mesmerized me, because I didn't start flipping stations looking for cartoons. I stayed with a movie called Invaders from Mars. It was one of those old 1950 science fiction movies about a little boy who was privy to the fact that Martians had invaded and were slowly taking people over. I remember the Martian leader was a head in a globe with octopus legs. I was 6, and I was terrified. I couldn't go running into my parents' room because I wasn't supposed to be up watching horror movies. I remember being mesmerized and terrified. And after a while, I understood that whenever the Martian leader was going to appear on the screen, you'd hear this creepy music. So seeing that I couldn't move because I was so afraid, and I couldn't go running into my parents to save me because I would get in trouble, I remember exactly what I did. I sat there in front of the TV. And when I heard that creepy Martian music, I would close my eyes and I would cover my ears because I didn't want to be frightened anymore. I didn't want to hear what the Martian leader was going to say. I didn't want to hear what was going on around me. I covered my ears and closed my eyes. My friends, I've always thought it was rather interesting that the day after Christmas, one of the greatest celebrations of our liturgical year, yesterday when we met with family and friends, opening gifts, the day after, we celebrate the feast of a martyr. Just momentarily, we put away the white and the gold, and we remember Stephen. We dress in red because Stephen the deacon was the first to give his life for his faith. Stephen's story is an interesting one, but at the moment that he knew in all likelihood he could be killed, he started to pray. He prayed aloud for the glory and the presence and the power of God to be with him. That's all Stephen wanted, because Stephen knew that's all he needed. But what I think is most interesting is what the onlookers did. Those who wanted to kill him, those who didn't want to hear of God's presence or the power of his word, they covered their ears so they couldn't hear of God's presence. They wanted to kill Stephen. They didn't want to hear God dissuade them. They covered their ears. My friends, yesterday we celebrated the Feast of Christmas. The people who walked in darkness saw a great light. They heard of the birth of one who was named Emmanuel, God with us always. And that's what our church reminds us of on this day. That sometimes life can be difficult, but through it all, He is there with us. And we are asked to use our faith to never cover our ears. Now, we might not purposefully do that, but so often when things happen that hurt us, perhaps we close our ears with sadness. Perhaps we empower fear a little too much. The readings this day, my friends, remind us that if we live with our ears open, our eyes wide, no matter what is happening around us, we will hear His voice. We will see his face, as Stephen did at the end of that first reading. In the gospel, Jesus himself speaks of difficult times the day after Christmas because he wants us to know that no matter what it is that we face, no matter where we are in life, whether we're celebrating the joy of Christmas or the sadness of darkness, fear, illness, even death, he is there to give us what we need. He tells us in the gospel, the Spirit of your Father will be with you. The Spirit of your Father will be in you and give you the courage and the strength that you need. My friends, on this day after Christmas, when we celebrate the death of a martyr, we are reminded that indeed our God, whose birth we celebrated yesterday, is Emmanuel. I am with you always. I am with you during joy and sorrow because I love you. Today, he reminds us that he loves us very, very much.